5:30, so we'll begin our March 25th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Ms. Raymond, please let the record show that all board members are present this evening. At this time, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Our Director of Communications, Ms. Teresa Bledsoe, will introduce the students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Mo. So Alex is a first grader who is a model citizen in his classroom. He always follows Weaver Wildcat expectations and is kind, supportive, and helpful to his classmates. Hunter is a third grader who is a compassionate and determined student. He always supports his friends and strives to do his best. His dedication to learning and willingness to tackle challenges with a positive attitude make him an inspiring role model in the classroom. Carson is a fifth grader and embodies the spirit of Weaver. She uses her determination and growth mindset to push herself toward academic and personal achievement. Wyatt is a kindergartner who loves to learn and constantly challenges himself to grow. His infectious laugh and vibrant personality bring smiles to everyone around him. And Naomi is also a kindergartner. She is a hardworking and motivated student who consistently demonstrates a passion for learning. Her kindness and respect for others create a positive and welcoming atmosphere in the classroom. So we're honored to have these students with us and would also like to recognize any other members of the Weaver family who are present. If you'd please stand if you're here to support these students tonight. So at this time, we invite you to join these Weaver Wildcats as they say the Pledge of Allegiance. Students, whenever you're ready. A flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Last month, the Boys and Girls Club of Springfield named an SPS student as 2025 Springfield Youth of the Year. So we'd like to welcome Hunter Johnson, who is a senior at Central High School. Hunter, please come forward. He was scheduled to be here last meeting, but was at the last minute had a scheduling conflict. Hunter was chosen for the highest honor bestowed by the Boys and Girls Club because of his leadership and commitment to serving others by mentoring younger club members. Along with the award, he received a $16,000 scholarship, and his career goal is to become a commercial pilot. In a few weeks, in April, Hunter will compete at the state level for a chance to win an additional $2,000 scholarship and the opportunity to compete for regional and national titles. So join me in congratulating Hunter. our next special recognition is for our school board. March is School Board Recognition Month, so we have organized a special presentation to honor your dedication and commitment to our 24,000 students and 4,000 employees. We invited students at Gray Elementary School to help us express our appreciation to you, and we have some of them here. And as I call their name, would you please come forward? Maddie Garrett, Maddie Harrell, Henry Bebout, Sydney Lacara, and Harper Welch. With the support and guidance of their principal, Dr. Angie Carter, and Gray staff members, Laura Garrett and Carrie Sykes, the students did a little research and created this video for you.
We want to say thank you from Wanda Gray Elementary.
Okay, what is a school board? A school board is a group of elected ups who help run the school in our community.
They are volunteers.
That means they are helping our schools and giving their time without being paid.
They are local and they are elected by our voters in our community. It is a lot of work to be on a school board. To work as a team to make the best decisions for all the students in Springfield. Gray Elementary says thank you for serving our community. Happy School Board Appreciation Month.
Happy School Board
Appreciation.
Appreciation Month.
We appreciate you. We think you are great. We appreciate you. Yeah, you really great. You make us so happy with the things you say and do. Oh, we appreciate you. You. We appreciate you. We think you are neat. We appreciate you. Yeah, you can be beat. You make us so happy with the things you say and do. Oh, we appreciate you. You. We appreciate you. We think you are neat. We appreciate you. Yeah, you really rule. You make us so happy with the things you say and do. Oh, we appreciate you. Yes, we appreciate you. Oh, we appreciate you. You.
Now the students are going to help us by delivering some gift bags to you with a token of our appreciation. If you guys would grab a bag and take it to the board members. And if you will note, you have a framed certificate from the Missouri School Boards Association at your place, which acknowledges your service and advocacy on behalf of our students and staff.
Thank you.
Would you take one? So please please join us in thanking our Board of Education? To conclude our recognitions tonight, we're pleased to honor the March Employee of the Month. The recipient is a first-year teacher at Weaver Elementary School, where she sets high expectations for her students and models the importance of lifelong learning. Her principal, Dr. Cheryl Getz, says, her commitment to her personal growth is evident in how she consistently implements guidance from coaches, peers, and administration, embraces self-reflection, and seeks out professional development opportunities. Let's watch this video to learn more about Ms. Nair Maines.
Yeah, I've been in education for a long time. I grew up in a daycare. I have a lot of siblings. I was always the person to help them with homework, babysit all of my cousins that I have. So I've just always been around kids, and I always find enjoyment being around kids and seeing the developmental process that they go through. So I became a teacher. I love that every day is full of small, meaningful moments, whether it's those light bulb moments or their excitement for learning. I love just being able to watch them grow, not just academically, but in confidence and in independence as well.
So Miss Maines is a first-year teacher, and she's phenomenal. Like from the start, even from the day we hired her, she just has been so enthusiastic and just a go-getter, right? Like she's willing to jump in head first into all the things, and she will do anything that it takes to get to a place where her kids feel safe and connected.
I think my students respond very well to the high expectations that I set, and I think it's because they understand the why. Children are very curious, and so when they understand why someone is telling them to do something or asking them to do something, they're more motivated to do it, and they feel great when they follow those expectations, and I love seeing them succeed in that.
Miss Maines just embodies the spirit of Weaver, right? Like what we've been trying to build here. And that's a spirit of collaboration and a spirit of we've got this and we can do this and we can do hard things. We talk about grit with the kids all the time, and Miss Maines is an amazing example of that. And so I think what I would want her to walk away knowing is that even as a first year teacher, you have a lot to offer and a lot to give. And never stop being a learner, right? Because even at 25 years, I thrive on what can I learn today that I didn't know yesterday, and how can I do what I did today maybe a little bit better than what I did yesterday. And I think that that's exactly who she is at her core. How can I do it just a little bit better tomorrow so that I just take tiny steps and I eventually get there? So the journey is long, but it's always worth it, and she's well on her way to being a phenomenal teacher.
If I could share any advice, it would be to always find a win in any situation, whether it's the end of a challenging day or a challenging moment. Those are the moments that show us that we're making a difference when we celebrate those wins in those moments, and it's the reward that we get for coming back.
Ms. Maines, would you please come forward? Thank you. That concludes our recognitions for tonight.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 2.04, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion? Motion from Board Member McCoskey. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Board Member Bruner. And at this time, we will vote. And thank you all for being here this evening.
Do we not have speakers? Do we not have speakers?
Okay, the motion that the board approve the agenda as presented passes 7-0. This evening, there are no public comments, so we'll move on to the consent agenda items. I'll entertain a motion that the board approve the consent agenda items 4.01 through 4.04. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Board Member Thomas Tate. Do I have a second? Second from Board Member Provance. And at this time, we will vote. The motion that the board approve consent agenda items passes 7-0. That brings us to item 5.01. And our Executive Director of Business Services, Ms. Kara Stasa, will provide an update to us on the budget.
This is my first time up here just using the clicker, so bear with me and hopefully I don't click the wrong direction. All right, so tonight we've kind of begun our public budget development presentations. We've been meeting since December in small group, but tonight's budget development presentation is just a high-level introduction of the budget development process and, again, a high-level fund review. So we'll review the budget development calendar. So beginning with the end in mind, the board adopts a budget every June for the upcoming school year. And once that budget is adopted, then we go straight into budget development essentially by doing monthly budget amendments throughout the year that are presented to the board as a part of the treasurer's reports. We're always looking at the budget to actuals and then bringing you the most up-to-date information that will inform the next year. In August every year, we have our tax rate hearing where we set the tax levy for local revenues for the current year. And then budget development kicks off really in September with our budget leaders as we go through the capital planning process and look at expenditures and revenues. We have the collective bargaining process that's also in place right now and underway. And then again, we started the small group budget meetings with the board in December, and we will bring a final budget recommendation to the board in June. So as a part of the budget that is recommended to the board, there are 5 components as outlined by statute and in board policy DB annual budget. And those 5 components are a budget message, estimated revenues for the upcoming year and the 2 preceding years, proposed expenditures for the upcoming year and 2 preceding years, the amount required to pay any debt that we have, and a general budget summary. Budget development aligns to the strategic plan, so any budget recommendation or changes would be aligned to the strategic plan and the goals for the upcoming school year. So this slide provides a snapshot from the annual Secretary of the Board report, or the ASBR. The ASBR is something that all school districts across the state must report up to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education each year on or before August 15th. So the ASBR is comprised of a bunch of different information from revenues, expenditures, our transportation information, debt, and fund balances. The ASBR then takes all of that information and organizes it into 4 major funds. And so those 4 funds are the general fund, the teacher fund or special revenue fund, the debt service fund, and the capital projects fund. And the capital projects fund also includes the debt or the bond fund as well. So one fund that is not on here that our district has is a fiduciary fund that is the health benefit trust fund, and that is for our self-funded health insurance program. So it does not get reported up to the state level since it's a fiduciary fund that's managed by the district. One thing that I will point out is our ending fund balance last year was 30.36%. And so for those of you who don't work in this every day, you might be saying, what is a fund balance? That fund balance represents a ratio of our reserves or any district's reserves or that ending fund balance compared to the expenditures for that year. So it's just a simple division problem. So you take that ending fund balance divided by your expenditures. And the expenditures that are in that calculation are operating expenditures only. So they do not include debt service or your capital. So all districts across the state have a calculated fund balance at the end of the year. And why does that fund balance matter so much to us? So there's a few different things that impacts. One, it represents the health, the fiscal health of a school district. Some districts need to keep that higher as they don't have as many reserves. Our typical fund balance before our COVID stimulus funds was around 17 to 18%. So this is quite high for a school district our size. Another thing that the fund balance impacts is your credit rating. So when you go out for bonds, credit and lending institutions are looking at that fund balance to see how financially healthy you are. Also, board policy and even our strategic plan informs what our fund balance should be maintained at. So our strategic plan calls for it to not be under 17%. Our board policy says that we'll strive to maintain it at 15%. So moving on to the current year, this is a snapshot from the general budget summary that was presented this evening as a part of the treasurer's report. And our projected ending fund balance for the current year is 26.96 or almost 27%. That number changes every month as we bring you different amendments to the budget or transfers to the budget. And we typically see it creep just a little bit higher as the year is finalized and there's unspent budget. So again, highlighted for you in blue are the general and the teachers fund, which combined make up that operating fund. And that is where most of the day-to-day expenditures, day-to-day revenues, and day-to-day operations take place, and where most of the budget development work takes place. So this pie chart represents the operating funds only by revenue source. So you can see that the majority of our revenue in our operating funds that pay for our day-to-day expenditures come from local and state revenues. And that makes up only almost 90% of our entire operating revenue that we receive. One item to note on that local revenue is that a majority of that is received in January or February each year, which is another reason why having a healthy fund balance is so important, having a healthy reserve. Because once it's received in January or February, you have to make those local funds last all calendar year long until you get to December. So if you're a financially stressed district or a district that doesn't have a lot of reserves, you may find yourself in a position to have to borrow to meet payroll in those later months, October, November, December. Luckily, we've not had to do that for quite a long time due to that healthy fund balance. So this is a high-level review of the funds, and most of you have been through the presentations before, but as we journey through to the end of these presentations leading up to June, we will do a deeper presentation dive into all of these funds. So beginning again with that general and teacher fund, the operating fund. So what does that fund do? So that fund pays for all salary and benefits of all staff. It also covers purchase services and supplies, and we'll dive into that a little deeper on some slides, future slides. We have the debt service fund, and that is the principal and interest payment and fees for any taxpayer approved debt, so our bond. And then we have the capital projects fund, includes bond, and that covers all types of facility acquisition, construction, other capital outlay items that are big pieces of equipment or vehicles such as school buses. It also covers lease purchase, principal and interest payments if a district has any of those. And then as previously mentioned, we have that health benefit trust fund, and that covers the medical benefits, prescription benefits, and wellness programming for our self-funded insurance fund. So this chart represents the expenditure budget currently for all funds. So again, the general and teacher fund are our largest, with the teachers fund being the largest, and the teachers fund description is kind of misleading because it doesn't just pay for teachers in that fund. It's any instructionally related position where the staff member holds a DESE certificate. So it's not just classroom teachers that are paid out of that fund. So breaking that expenditure budget down even further, we're just looking at operating funds on this pie chart by object type. So salary and benefits are our largest, and they combine to make almost 80% of that entire budget. And then purchase services and supplies make up the remaining 20%. And then breaking that down a little bit further, here is a listing of the operating funds by purchase service object type. So this listing only represents 8.53% of the entire operating budget, but this is where a lot of the day-to-day work happens paying for these types of expenditures. So you have everything that is a service of some sort that the district pays for. So not salaries, not benefits, but services that we pay to outside vendors. So we've got our substitute services makes up a large part of this. Tuitions to other districts where we have to pay local tax effort. Travel, property insurance, dues and memberships, any variety of different services. These object codes and their descriptions are assigned by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And similarly, we've got the supply operating funds, and that represents 12.13% of the operating budget. And the categories are listed here as well. So any type of consumable item is considered a supply type item. So you've got your utilities, our student food supplies, textbooks, tech-related supplies, library books. This slide represents a preliminary revenue projection for the upcoming year. And again, it's very early on in the year. It's only March. There's a lot of work left to be done and some legislative decisions at the state level could impact local and state revenues. So we always put that disclaimer out there that these could change by the time the final recommendation comes around. Next year is a reassessment year on local assessed value, so we do anticipate some sort of increase there. Again, if you go back to that budget development calendar, we have to set a budget and provide a recommendation in June, but we don't actually set that tax levy until August. So right now, it really is just our best guess projection. We have no data from the county to inform this at this point, and once we actually have data and set that levy, then an amendment comes before the board in August or September to update that number. State revenues are projected to increase slightly next year due to the implementation of a provision in Senate Bill 727. So this provision calls for the calculation of state aid to now be going off of weighted average daily attendance and weighted membership. And membership is more like an enrollment or head count of students instead of an attendance count. So that'll start to phase in next year, and it'll take 5 years to phase that in.
Board members, part of our discussion when we started our small group meetings last December, we discussed the strategic support school stipend for designated campuses. Last December, we spoke about 4 campuses, and since that our last meeting, I added 2 additional schools that I'd like for you to consider for the strategic school stipend. And those 6 schools are identified as Boyd Elementary, McGregor Elementary, Williams Elementary, Pipkin Middle School, Reed Middle School, and Westport K-8. If you recall during our discussion, we're saying that for all staff members on this campus, principals, assistant principals, teachers, cafeteria staff, custodians, that we would like to provide an extra a stipend for them as it relates to professional development and support. What we're saying is we acknowledge that these campuses deal with a number of challenges, as a lot of our schools across the district. But these 6 schools in particular, we feel they need additional support beyond the designated professional development that's outlined for all of our other campuses. And that designated professional development support can be around student behaviors, also additional instructional strategies in math and literacy, but also as it relates to making sure we support the entire family and that staff members have the strategies that they need. I know one of the questions that came up is we understand, know the certificated staff, but why the classified staff? The classified staff play a major role also, just like other staff members on a campus. And we see that custodians and cafeteria staff members should also be valued, as well as the administrative staff, because they're interacting with those students also on a daily basis. And we want them to be a part of the training that we've outlined and designated for these campuses. Also, board members, the request, as I shared with you previously, would be for a 3-year commitment for these campuses. So it wouldn't just be for 1 year. As you see, we have added that in. It is projected into the proposed 25-26 budget. So we've built that in with all of the decisions we had to make as it relates to our budgets moving forward over the next several years. But we're saying these schools need additional, like I said, intensive support. And we hope that we will have your approval as it relates to this recommendation.
And the final slide for this evening is just that budget presentation schedule so that you can see what is upcoming. So we'll be back here on April 15th with a more in-depth presentation on debt service bond, capital projects, and health benefit trust. Then in May, we will go into the general and teachers fund. We'll also have some additional small group budget meetings with the board. And then we'll have that final budget presentation and recommendation in June, and it'll be here faster than you know.
Thank you, Ms. Stasel. That was an excellent presentation. I very much appreciate you translating all the complicated things that you deal with day to day and making it understandable for those of us who don't live in that world every day. So that was an informational item, but I'll turn it over to the board. Are there any questions from board members? I know that we've done our small group meetings and we've got other small group meetings, but are there comments or questions from board members? Yeah.
I have questions on 3 slides. Slide 5. Oh, you can,
I can't
okay.
control it,
All right.
sorry.
I'll tell you real quick.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me, but-
So the beginning fund balance for capital projects for the APR report from 2024 is 233 million, et cetera. That's the bond that's in there.
That includes the bond.
So in a typical non-bond year, what is the beginning fund balance? I know you've
For
told me
our
this
capital,
before.
it's around 2023 right now. It's a little higher than normal, but
Okay, because it has total revenue 21, so right about 20. Okay. My next question is, and I have to go to the slide so it reminds me what my question was, sorry. Slide 8, she doesn't have it, but I do.
I've got it in front of me on paper.
Oh, slide
That'll-
8. So this is something that came up, I was talking with Dr. Shaw before the meeting. I'm going to have to get together with you because I need some clarification. I thought I knew what a capital projects fund was, and then I found out that maybe I didn't. But looking at what you said and what you've presented, it was what I thought it was. So this is a reminder that we need to talk about this. Okay. You weren't part of the conversation. I just
Okay.
wanted to point it out. And lastly, on slide 11, okay, so purchase services. These are, this is 8.53% of the teacher and general fund,
Correct.
of the operating fund. Are teacher stipends considered purchase services?
That would be a salary type payment.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other board member comments or questions? Okay. Thank you again. We appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to item 6.01, explore and launch collective bargaining side letter agreements.
Good evening, Dr. Lathan, Mrs. Kincaid, members of the board. So I am back this month. Last month, if you remember, on the February 25th board meeting, you ratified 5 Explore side letters, and those were only for the summer school session. And I told you at that meeting that I would be back with the final 2. So this evening, we have our final 2 side letters. One of them is Explore. It's the Explore Educator side letter. The other side letter deals with or revolves around the Launch Virtual Regular School Year side letter. So with the Explore Educator side letter, there weren't a whole lot of changes to these. And again, we did these through email with SNEA. We did not actually physically meet with them. But with the Explore Educator, the changes there are mostly, they're around the dates, so we updated the dates. There was some changes to the work hours. There was some changes to their compensation. They got a little bit more money this summer. And then with the launch of virtual regular school year side letter, the only changes there were dates and then their work hours. There was language around the work hours that changed. So that being said, the motion reads, pursuant to Board of Education Policy HA, the district negotiated with Springfield National Education Association to reach tentative side agreements relative to wages, benefits, and other terms and conditions of employment for covered employees. The tentative agreements are as follows, and the approval of the board is hereby requested. I will note that Mrs. Mullins and her leadership team have already ratified these 2 side letters, and we ask for your ratification this evening.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that the board approve the Explore and Launch side letters as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Board Member Thomas Tate. Do I have a second? Second from Board Member Provance. Are there any questions or comments from the board at this time? I know that we've had an opportunity to see this before this evening, but are there any questions or comments?
I have a question. Dr. Range, why are they called side letters?
Good question. I just kind of inherited that deal, so I think they're just outside of the kind of the regular school year functioning. You know, what goes on between August and well, the launch one doesn't because that is the regular school year. But I don't
It's
have.
outside of the collective bargaining agreement, so it's a side letter to, think about it like it's an extension to the collective bargaining agreement. So these are things we've agreed outside of the collective bargaining agreement.
Good question.
It's a good question.
Other board member comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we've got a motion and a second, so at this time we will vote. And the motion carries 7-0. That moves us to item 6.02, student device purchase. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Before you is the purchase of our Chromebooks for the year. So this is our annual refresh where we would purchase 8,500 Chromebooks for use in grades 1st through 9th grade. Few notes on this. This is the last year that we still have a lease of Chromebooks. So we've been working on that for several years. That lease will be completed this year, and this is now just straight purchasing. Another piece is that we are still working on that refresh cycle. So as we shifted to carts, we have 1 more year where we're a little higher. It'll start to level off here in the next 2 years. And then this actually does include our first year of starting to add accidental damage protection to our Chromebooks. The reason for this is to actually reduce some of our repair costs while also freeing up some labor so that we're no longer doing as many repairs. We're able to provide additional supports in the classrooms and better be able to use our staffing. So the total amount in front of you tonight for vote is $2,669,500. Be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion that the board approve the purchase of the Chromebooks as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Board Member Mohammed Khani. Do I have a second? Second from Board Member McCoskey. Are there any questions or comments at this time from the board?
I'm just for one happy to see the accidental damage in addition to this purchase order.
Go ahead.
Just one quick question. We still have the practice of the parents being responsible for chargebacks of damage, those Chromebooks as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Nothing in that process have changed? Okay.
Other board member comments or questions?
I'm curious as to how we'll define accident.
So it's actually part of the program. So when we have a repair on a device, they cover certain pieces of it. And instead of us purchasing the repair parts, performing the repair, now the company actually will end up doing that.
If it's an accident.
Yeah, it covers certain pieces. So it'll cover a certain number of screen breaks on a device. It'll replace keyboards that are broken, different pieces like that. They get pretty specific on what can and cannot be recovered with that. Yeah.
Okay, anything else from the board?
I do. I'm not really, I just want to make sure that I'm addressing the right group. So that would be all of us, Dr. Lathan, the district, the parents, everyone, because I feel like there's been a breakdown in communication on this particular issue. So for perspective, I've been on this board, this is my 4th year, and I've always been concerned about our students and technology. I want to make sure that they have the best technology so that when they graduate, they're starting out at their best. And 2 years ago, I got the board to come alongside me and ask for what our plans are. And all along, I was really interested in the actual hardware that we have in the hands of our students and teachers, right? Because I know that we started out with Chromebooks, and so did so many districts, but that doesn't mean that's the best. It's just what we started out. At that time, then there was a presentation called the Technology Plan Development, September of 2023. As part of that, there was stakeholder engagement, and it involved parents and thought exchange. And at that time, there wasn't any conversations about the devices. And I made my opinions known about it at the time. And then we had some other engagement internally, community members. And again, I raised concern that we don't have all the voices and the correct voices represented. In that meeting, it says that the final plan, June 2024, there was going to be a final plan. So then it came to the board again, June of 2024. Now this time, we've got the work team put together. There's some metrics. There's 4 different areas, and within each area, there's some goals, and there's some stages. So basically, there was no plan. It was the plan to have the plan. So we have a plan on how we're going to come up with a plan. And I thought that we were going to actually get that plan. But then Friday before spring break, we get this update, and in that update, there's a link that goes to the self-assessment. And there's a technology service continuum that has goal 1, equip students and teachers with the technology equipment needed. And in there, it says stage 2, that's in stage 2. And the narrative is that the majority of technology equipment have a defined refresh schedule and are appropriately budgeted for through both operating and capital expenditures. The execution of the schedules continue to improve, and it is anticipated that all equipment will be on a current schedule by the 26-27 school year, et cetera, et cetera. The artifacts are approved budget, E-rate purchase, the interactive, and then another artifact is the refresh cycle calendar, and then there's this ITIL process infographic that I cannot access. So all the artifacts are completely irrelevant to the conversation. So I'm going to go back to how this whole thing started, and I want to be crystal clear. The question was and continues to be, are these the best devices that we have in front of our students? Are they the devices that are most effective in providing the instructions? Are they the fastest? Are they being exposed to the operating systems, and are they understanding the operating systems in such a way that whether they go to work or go to the military, go to college, they understand, right? Can they do Apple, and can they do all of it? What is best for them in terms of delivery? What is best for them in terms of blocking what they shouldn't be able to access, right? What's the most cost effective? Do we need them for K1, 2, 3? These are all the conversations that all along I've wanted to have, and I really thought that is what was going to be presented, because this isn't something that's new. This has been a contentious vote now going on year probably 3. We've come to this over and over, and we finally came to an agreement as a board that we were going to have a productive discussion. We've even talked about AI. There's so many dangers with AI. Where are we with our kids? I'm looking at you, but I'm really talking to everyone, truly everyone. And I think at this point, all I'm hearing is that, well, we're moving forward with the refreshers, right? We're just chugging along. There's been zero conversation. Maybe there have been. It's just not been presented to the board. I feel that I've been really, really patient. I don't know how else to ask for it. I'm asking for it yet again. And, until you can prove to me as one board member that we have a plan, I'm not going to be able to support this. It's not that I don't think our kids need Chromebooks. It's just that I still don't know what we're doing.
Thank you. Do you want to speak?
So I agree with the sentiment of what you were saying, Dr. Muhammad Khani. I also won't support this, but the reason why is I think what you were trying to articulate is that this has been a consistent conversation for 3 years, and for a year and a half or 2 years it's been since we requested a comprehensive technology plan, and I don't feel like that we've really gotten that. A year and a half is long enough, and if we're going to be asked to continue to spend a lot of money and invest in our technology, as I think we should, I think we probably do need new Chromebooks, but I don't know how else to say we need a plan. It's been a year and a half. Let's have a plan that we can show to our stakeholders exactly what we're doing and all of our thoughts and philosophies around technology. I just don't feel comfortable that it's been communicated to me in a way that we have commitments and philosophies to make sure that our students are safe, that their data is safe, that they are being introduced to learning technology at the appropriate times and have the appropriate curriculum and resources to learn technology. Also, the comments that Miriam had said about the types of technology that we want to use, what our commitment is to cell phones and their appropriateness in the classroom or not, or in the building or not. All of those things are things that I think as a board, I would urge all of us to be serious about pushing for a plan that would be adopted annually by the board for something as important as this, that we can commit to our teachers, our students, our stakeholders in the district of everything that we are doing in this world that is rapidly changing, that is so important for them to learn, yet also poses a lot of threats to them and their mental health and their data privacy. So yet again, I'll ask for the plan, and for that reason, I'll vote no on this tonight. Had I had that plan, it probably would have been an easy vote for me. I just want to know what the plan is.
Are there other board member comments or questions? Yes.
I'm only commenting because there's been a narrative that board members, including myself, don't push back, and I'm not pushing back. I will vote for this because I do feel that we have enough information to make a vote, and I'm not willing to withhold my vote for a plan. These are necessary items for our refresh, and I think it's important that we move forward with it. I think the plan that we've gotten was not sufficient for some board members, but that does not mean we did not get a plan. I do agree that we probably need to continue to have these conversations about a plan, but I as one board member, am not willing to withhold my vote in order to get a plan, because I do think this is a necessary purchase.
Thank you. Are there other board member comments or questions? Okay. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate this information. I am excited to continue to have this conversation. There's one board member I'm thankful for under like the curriculum alignment in our comprehensive technology plan. We've got to develop and utilize technology resource selection and evaluation process aligned to the written curriculum. I understand that we're looking at technology resources and whether or not those work in our classrooms. I also very, very much appreciate under technology services, equipping the students and teachers with technology equipment needed to support I started the wrong one. Under the safety progress rubric, I very much appreciate that we have digital citizenship lessons for all of our students, and I look forward to continuing to have those conversations and continuing for you and your team to bring that to the board so that we can feel comfortable with this. I am in support of this evening because I know that it's going to encourage and continue the success of our students in our district.
I want to make another comment. Okay. I just want to be clear that on my vote, so all of these good things that President Kincaid mentioned happened because of the pushback and because of the squeaky wheels wanting more privacy for students, digital privacy, more training, more alignment to curriculum, better curriculum. We have better curriculum, both print and digital. And that all happened because we have had these conversations. And I'm fully in support of having Chromebooks. What I was seeking was a presentation that told us, yes, we went and looked at, Surface, this, that, we looked at this. We brought 3 sets of different types of hardware. We had students, staff, and administrators check them out, for a period of 1 week, and then we looked at the pros and cons for each one, and we decided for the dollars that we have and what we are seeking, this is still the right purchase to make. This is still the right device. What I didn't want to hear was, well, we have 1 more year in our lease. Well, but now we're not obligated to a lease, right? We're no longer obligated. So are we doing this just because we're trying to finish out the lease? In which case I understand, and we need to do it, and we need to refresh it. But alongside that, what's the plan for after this? I just want to make sure that that is being communicated. It's not that I'm trying to withhold Chromebooks, because it's very obvious that everything that ever comes to this board passes. No one's ever voted no. No one. It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter what Dr. Thomas States thinks. She always votes yes. So I know the votes are there. I know the purchase is being made. But it's really important to have the conversation of what is going into this. And I hope that I've been able to communicate that effectively, in that in no shape, way, or form am I trying to withhold good technology. I just want us to know that we are looking into what's best for our kids, and that we are in pursuit of that. Even though we're making this purchase, we are actively pursuing what is best, because not all districts have Chromebooks. And if anybody's got the wherewithal, the talent, and the money, and again, the talent to make the decisions that all the other school districts will then look to, it's us. We are truly the leaders. We have the best leadership. We are the most capable. And I just want us to rise to that level. And so I just wanted to be clear that in no way, and I think everybody understands that, I'm the one board member that spent a whole day for the last 2 years that MSB has offered artificial intelligence a conference, a full day conference, because I think that's the future. And I want to get our students ready for that future. That future is so incredibly dangerous if they don't have the right tools and they don't have the right knowledge. We're either going to pave the path for them to success, or quite frankly, to hell. We know unequivocally the daily harm that students are suffering from screen time, technology, cell phones, the whole gambit. But at the same time, we know that's absolutely the wave of the future. They need to learn it. They need to understand what that piece of equipment is. How does it work? Because it won't be like me and you and the rest of us. We're going to be dead and buried underground before these things try to take over the way that we think. So in order for our students to be ahead of the future, they have to understand what this is. How does this work? In the first 5 years, that's what they need to understand. They don't need to be learning math from this thing or even on this thing. Because if they don't master those fundamental operating systems and what this is, what it's capable of, that it is capable of thinking for you. That's a very dangerous thing. So these are some really basic building blocks. We've got kids playing Fortnite all night long or all spring break long. And so that's the reality we live in. And I just want to do what I can do best for our students. And that's the perspective that I'm bringing. And I just want to make sure that everybody on this board and all leaders and all parents and all staff hear that. And I thank you for your patience in listening to me. You cut us off from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, but we did a second round, and I'll stop now.
I've appreciated everyone's comments tonight, from second comments to first comments. But I guess I would offer not a totally different perspective, because I do appreciate all the hard work that happens, but I will disagree with the fact, or with the statement, that conversations alone at the board level are the only reason we're even looking at this. I don't believe that for a minute. That would imply that we aren't looking forward, we aren't planning continuously, that our curriculum experts aren't looking at all possibilities, that Mr. Douglas and his team aren't considering everything that's out there. I won't disagree. I think AI is very dangerous, and I think it's scary to me because I don't understand it probably as well as you do, Miriam. But I'm not going to discount the expertise that our staff brings us when they bring us a plan. I was not disappointed in the plan when it was presented before. I will say that the beginning conversation of that plan with me came from a phone call that Board Member Byrne made, and he asked me if I would, as a board member, be willing to ask for a technology plan. I think that was a good ask. I appreciated him reaching out. I agreed with him. And so, yes, conversations did start there, but let's not make the assumption that other conversations had not already taken place from the people closest to the students, closest to the classrooms. That would imply to me that they're not doing their jobs, and I don't think that's correct. I also don't like any board member to make an assumption of how any of us will vote. We don't know how we're going to vote until it's presented to us, until we have all of the information. To imply that my mind is already made up one way or the other, or that Dr. Thomas Tate's mind is made up one way or the other, I think that that doesn't give us any credit for doing our own due diligence and for really thinking through the important job that we have here. So I will be voting in favor of this. I don't totally discount what any of the board members said tonight. There are some scary things about technology, but I also have confidence in our staff. I think that to assume you all are not as concerned about this as those of us up here would be a terrible mistake to make. I don't believe that, and I will be monitoring it. I think that monitoring it during the year, bringing forth improvements, I'm all for that. It's a big deal, but I trust people to do their jobs.
Thank you. Yep.
It says here that Chromebooks are being purchased for 1st through 9th grade.
Correct.
So I'm going to assume that it's tied very closely to the curriculum and that is grade appropriate for what the kids can use on the Chromebooks. And maybe the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders will have something that might be a little bit more accelerated. Something, again, AI, I know it's going to be the answer to the future, but that answer can hit the screwball off to the sidelines too. But I feel very good that what you have decided on and presented is grade appropriate and tied to the curriculum. Do you feel good about that?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir.
I think there's a little bit of a negative misunderstanding or misinterpretation of what's being vocalized. I mean, I can't speak for Miriam, but on my end, Judy, when you say, I'm not hearing anything that there's an assumption that the staff isn't doing their jobs. I don't think that that's been said or implied. I know that they work very hard. The missing piece that I'm asking for is for them to communicate that, what that is, so that we can make that our plan and our commitment to the community. And if they are doing these things, then I don't think it's too much of an ask to say, let's commit to it in a plan publicly to everyone. And it's been a year and a half since we first made that request. And I do not think that the plan that we had is the culmination of what was expected or the expectation that was set by this board. So this isn't bashing staff. This is just, we've asked for something. It's been a year and a half. Now they're asking something of me, which is a vote on this. And I don't know how else to firmly say, I'm not going to do that until I get the communication of what it is that our plan is. And I think that's a fair request based on the the purchase and the seriousness of this topic. And I wanted to take the rest of my time to share maybe why this is so important to me today. Something anecdotal, I guess, to the rest of the board that's come to my attention literally today regarding AI. A few months ago, it came this concept of chatbots was brought to my attention, and I brought it to Dr. Lathan's attention and asked if this was something that was accessible by our students on their Chromebooks. And she said that it was, and they were looking into it further to make sure that it was being restricted properly. Hadn't touched on that topic again. It was brought to my attention literally today by coincidence that this program called Character.ai is accessible by our students on their Chromebooks. And I would urge each of you to look into what that is and the threats that it poses to the mental health of children, not just in SPS, but children across the country. And it's something like this that if it's in our school system, that's why I'm asking for a plan, so that we know that they know and have researched and are working on what all the threats are to make sure that our students are as safe as possible. So this chatbot is AI. It comes in the form of characters. It can be a real person or a fictionary person or whatever it is. You have a conversation with this chatbot just like it's a person. This algorithm or whatever it is programmed to basically never say no and to entertain whatever story you want to tell it. It just goes back and forth with you. It can be sexually explicit to a level that you would not imagine. That is not, if you can create these conversations and keep digging, and it will keep teasing and keep pulling it out of you, and it can be as dark as you want it to be. There are lawsuits against this company now where it has told apparently a student or a child in Texas that because their parent took their technology away, it would be okay to kill them. I would urge each of you to look at this website, play with it, see how dark it'll go, because it'll keep going. And this is the stuff that our children are exposed to. That's the real threat that our children are under every day, and not just through SPS, when they go home and on their phones or whatever it is. I mean, this is a challenge that every parent should be aware of. But in our schools, we should be aware of these threats. And it shouldn't be appropriate, it shouldn't be accessible through our devices during the school day. And then outside of the school day, it's up to parents to decide what's best for their kids.
Mr. Byrne mentioned that we weren't bashing staff, but apparently we are bashing Dr. Thomas Tate, which I find to be offensive. I don't usually go back and forth with some of these conversations, but I think it's worth stating that just because I don't agree with some of the positions of other board members does not mean that I haven't thought through it, or that I haven't questioned it, or I haven't done my own due diligence. I think there's a lot of statements that are made here that are for entertainment or for distraction because not one board member is the only one who's been doing things. Every board member has been very actively involved in these processes. And just because we don't perform here at these desks does not mean that we are not engaged in those processes and are asking questions and are doing our own research and due diligence, including taking AR seminars. One board member is not the only one who's done those seminars. Others have done those seminars too, or other types of instructional information about AI, because we're all curious and interested. That's why we're here on this board. So I take offense to those statements, and I request that we refrain from throwing individual board members under the bus because they disagree with us.
Thank you for the presentation. If I can just slow it down just a little bit. I can agree with Sharita a bit. And also agree with the other board members, and I just hope that we can come to some sort of agreement here and what we're really trying to achieve, and that's the best for our children. I wanted to comment about, we're going from first grade to ninth grade. From the very beginning that I got on the board, I did not even want Chromebooks in the hands from K through 2. And one reason that I didn't want that, because I thought that it was a exceptionally better practice that we had pencil to paper for the lower grades. And one of the reasons that I was willing to accept Chromebooks to go into third grade was because of the MAP testing. I understand that we had to have the third graders at least have some familiarity with the Chromebooks so that they can be administered the required test at the third grade level. I still would say to this point, it's just still my position. I know I'll not get anywhere with it because I've been doing this for 3 years, that I can't still get pencil to paper from first or kindergarten to second grade and then implement Chromebooks into the third grade. And then once they reach the sixth grade level, that we can really aggressively get into the devices where they'll be supportive for career decisions when you start going through the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, when students decide that they want to maybe get into a specific career in that, and how the technology at that time frame when they get into their freshman year, that we would have that technology. And to go back to some of my colleagues with regards to the plan, yes, we did, as I understand it, that we had agreed that we would have a plan. And to what extent that plan is, I think Dr. Maryam Mohammed Khani started to point that out a little bit, is Chromebooks the answer? Is it another type of device in that? And I think the question there in my mind, as Dr. Maryam Mohammed Khani was talking, was, did we actually take that path to determine whether Chromebooks were the best, or were there other type of devices that would be better suited for our students? And that's not just for the students either, it's for our educators too, because our educators, as far as I'm concerned, we really provide them with some of the best technology. We have some really wonderful facilities. We continue to improve those through propositions and that, and we provide that environment for our educators and our students, and we continue to get better, and I really appreciate all of that. So educators, the administration, Dr. Lathan, I think you do a really great job in that and providing for the best for our students. But on the other hand, I'm going to say, I think the best for our students is kind of like where Dr. Mary Ann was coming from. Are we looking at just the Chromebooks, or are we looking at other alternatives that could be better suited for our curriculum and our educators? That's all I got to say at this point, because I'm sure not going to get the vote for no Chromebooks from kindergarten to third or the second grade. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Did you have anything? Okay. Thank you again for your time. Again, I look forward to having the continued conversations. Thank you for the comprehensive technology plan. I know it's a work in progress. And again, thank you for your extended time standing at the podium while we have this discussion. At this time, we do have a motion and a second, and we will go ahead and vote. And yes, board members, you may have been logged out due to the length of time of our discussion.
Raise your hand. No, because you can't use your phone.
Motion that the board approve the purchase of Chromebooks as presented passes 5-2. That moves us to item 6.03, property automobile liability insurance renewal. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. District property, automobile liability, and miscellaneous insurance coverages expire on April 1st, 2025, which is why every March we bring this renewal back to you for your vote. Extensive marketing efforts did take place by the district's broker, Allis Akers and Arnie. Other than a small change in auto physical damage and liability program, the current carriers provided the optimal bid. The proposed total premium of $2,287,324 is a $39,531 decrease from the prior year. So there's 4 buckets of insurance that we bring to you. The first is property coverage. We are seeing a premium increase of about 12.8%, of which 5.8% is attributed directly to the increased property values, and then 7% to rate. This is actually 3% less than the 2-year policy maximum increase of 10%, so that's good news. This is attributed to favorable claims and our loss prevention work done by the district's team. The only real notable coverage change has to do with our overall value, and that increased from $1.4 billion to $1.5 billion. So the recommendation for property coverage is to renew that insurance with Chubb. The second is all lines aggregate or liability coverage, also known as ALA. The current insurance carrier reduced the total liability limit from $10 million to $5 million. Also an increase in our deductible from $200,000 to $300,000, primarily attributed to liability claims on litigation and also market condition. So with those increases and with that reduction of coverage, the district broker did reach out to 25 different insurance companies, resulting in a recommended change to a different carrier. Notable coverage changes. Basically, the limit of liability will remain the same at $10 million. The liability retention level deductible will remain at $200,000. The only change was that the school board legal related to litigation will increase to $300,000 per loss. So the recommendation for ALA is to move that policy from Princeton RE to United Educators. Next is auto physical damage coverage. The prior insurance was included with the ALA policy, but United Educators does not include that with their policy. So we are recommending to move that over to Hanover Insurance to provide this standalone policy with no change to the loss limit of $3.5 million and no change to the $100,000 deductible. And finally, miscellaneous coverages. Crime and cyber, foreign, and fiduciary liability renewal proposals reflect just slight premium decreases with no significant coverage or deductible changes. So the recommendation is to renew that coverage with the current carrier's travelers for the cyber and fiduciary, and world risk for the foreign. So I will pause with the information. With us this evening, we do have Richard Allis and Jeff Eiserman with Allis Akers and Arnie. We also have our Director of Risk Management, Nancy Reagans. Just want to give a shout out to her. There's been a lot of questions over the last couple of days regarding the insurance. She's been amazing at providing very quick, responsive feedback, and I think answering those questions very thoroughly. But if you have questions regarding these policies, I will do my best to answer them, but I do have the experts here because they understand the insurance way better than I do.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. Do I have a motion that the board approve the property, automobile, and liability insurance renewal as presented? Motion from Board Member Thomas Tate, second from Board Member Mohammed Khani. Are there any board member questions? I'm sure you saw the flurry of emails over the last few days, and yes, thank you for responding promptly to those emails.
Just a quick question. Did I miss it? Do we have an umbrella policy as well? And what would those limitations be on the umbrella?
Notice how I just leaned that way.
I get it.
Get up.
Hello, my name's Jeff Eiserman. Thank you for asking that. Typical insurance policies might have a lower limit of $1 million or $2 million and then an umbrella that would go on top. These particular programs offer the full $10 million embedded in the single policy. So that's why you don't see an umbrella.
Thank you.
You bet.
Good question. Are there other questions or comments from board members?
One for Travis.
Hi, Jeff. Good
Hello.
to see you.
Good
You
to
look
see
good.
you. Thank you. So do you.
Thank you. So the flurry of emails would be my emails. I ask a lot of questions. I wish people would ask questions. because then I would see the answers too. I want to encourage everybody to ask the questions by email, because then everybody sees it. This was awesome, because I'm not an insurance person. I only know my experiences. So, and I want to thank Travis, and I don't know who is involved in answering them. Maybe it's you, but it was really well done, because, you know, when we see the description, it's like, whoa. And if we don't come from that line of work, we don't understand it. And every single year, I think, I can't possibly learn any more. There can't possibly be another question left, and it just keeps coming. So I think I'm ready for next year, should we want to switch again. I've got the lingo down. I understand what the marine business is. Thank you so much.
Your team, you should be very proud of your team. The people that we work with at the district are amazing.
Can we just pause and recognize Nancy Reagans, who is retiring? I don't know what, we're going to hire you back next year to answer the Miriam's questions. So I need you on contract from March the 1st to March the 31st next year. But we would like to recognize Nancy because she is retiring, and thank her for her service.
So, are you able to get quotes from all carriers?
That's a really loaded question. Typically, I would say yes, but there are a lot of insurance companies that will not offer quotes in this particular industry. K through 12 education is a difficult business, especially in liability.
Yeah. Well, I imagine there's a fairly limited pool that would write a policy like this, but are there any major players that you do not access?
No. Through our broker partnerships and through our direct contracts with insurance companies, we can pretty much get to the entire marketplace.
So we hire you as essentially a liaison to quote all that out to all the different carriers. Would it be fair to say that if we hired a different company locally that was not you, they would just be contacting the same companies?
Yes, that's a very fair comparison.
They wouldn't have a further reach than you?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
That's a good question. Okay, other board member? Yep. Yes.
I think that was a great question, Kelly, because I think there's 26 companies out there. Is that what we went to?
25 just on the
25.
Liability and property program.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of people that want to get into the school business, and having 25, that's quite a lot, actually. So I think that's a pretty good pool.
Thank you.
Any other board member questions or comments? Good questions this evening. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Thank you. Thank you again. There it goes. And the motion that the board approve the insurance renewal as presented passes 7-0. That moves us to item 6.04, Parkview Gymnasium HVAC replacement.
Good evening, Board. Before you tonight is a replacement for HVAC at the Parkview Gymnasium. This equipment has life cycled out, and it's time for us to replace it. This will be a capital funded project through 25-26 budget, which will be next capital budget. But this is an early bid item, so we've got to get it approved so we can get it scheduled to be done over the summer months. The total amount is $668,500, and U.S. Engineering Services was low bid.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion that the board approve the HVAC replacement for the Parkview Gymnasium as presented? Motion from Board Member McCoskey. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Board Member Berner. Are there any further questions or comments from the board before we vote? Okay.
Is the gym at Parkview significantly larger than the gym at Weller?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's why the dollar amount is so much.
Yeah,
greater.
I was asking because the one at Parkview is just the gym, and at Weller, it's the gym and 4 classrooms in the hallway, but they're really the same price, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, Parkview's huge.
Just huge. Okay, thank you.
Yes, dehumidification, which it does not have now.
Any further board member comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we will vote. The motion that the board approve the HVAC replacement for Parkview Gym passes 7-0. That takes us to item 6.05, the Weller HVAC replacement.
Again, another capital item. This is an early bid. It is replacing section of the building, 4 classrooms, gymnasium, hallways, and areas around that. This equipment also is life cycled out, so it's time to replace. Asking for approval to move this forward and approve this project for $662,400. And MSI was still a bid on this particular project.
Do I have a motion that the board approve the HVAC replacement for Weller Elementary as presented? Motion from Board Member McCoskey. Do I have a second? Second from Board Member Thomas Tate. Are there any further questions or comments from board members before we vote? Okay, seeing none, we will vote. The motion that the board approve the HVAC replacement for Weller Elementary passes 7-0. That moves us on to our 2023 bond project updates and actions. Item 7.01, change orders and agreements.
Yes, so before you is change order agreements for this month. The first 4 items is safety fencing, 6-foot safety fencing around elementary playgrounds. Second item is change order for a combination of, it's change order number 3, and it's a combination of multiple things on the Reed building project. Total is $129,104.
Thank you. Do I have a motion that the board approve the expenditures as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion from Board Member Byrne. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Board Member Thomas Tate. Are there any further questions or comments from board members at this time?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a list of items here on the change order for Reed. Are most of these items things that just missed the plans, were not designed correctly and needed to be changed?
It was a combination of items. There was a couple items that was a miss. Mechanical shaft, the 1-hour enclosure was a miss. Other than that, the knee wall was support for window ledges that they included just to beef it up. The rest of it was pretty normal stuff. The wood dance floor in room 202, there was only a portion of the wood floor. The teacher and principal asked for the wood floor to go continuously across the floor or across the classroom.
So that was a change requested by us. Something like auditorium wall lighting, is that something that was just overlooked in the design phase?
It was originally in the drawings, but whenever we value engineered some of that project, that was removed, but it is putting the wall pack lighting back on the outside walls inside the auditorium space.
So the knee wall and the mechanical shaft were things that were missed?
Yeah.
Is that something that Navigate should have picked up on? I mean, that's kind of what we paid them for, right?
Navigate did not catch those 2 items.
But those are the types of things that we paid them to.
Yes.
So first the architect should have gotten it. Then we paid Navigate for them to get it. And I understand there's still going to be things that slip through.
Yeah.
Have we applied this knowledge to the Pipkin project before we get it going?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from board members? Okay, seeing none, we will vote. The motion that the board approve the expenditures as presented passes 7-0. That takes us to item 7.02, Pipkin Middle School.
Exciting time, the Pipkin School project coming forward. Asking for approval. There was 6 bidders on this. They was very tight bids across the board. We're recommending that we go with Crossland's Construction because of the scheduled time that they can get this project completed. Their schedule is a 480-day schedule versus the next bidder was 742 days. In discussion with Navigate and the design team, we feel the value of time and getting children into the building is very beneficial, and so we're recommending Crossland's for this project.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion that the board approve the construction bid submitted by Crossland Construction? Motion from Board Member Thomas Tate. Do I have a second? Second from Board Member McCoskey. Are there board member questions or comments on this?
I'm going to assume that if we get into the building sooner and vacate Pipkin, there's cost savings to that,
Yes.
to get out a whole semester early.
Yes. Yes.
Do you know what that cost savings about is, do you think?
Run those reports. Off the top of my head, I do not recall what the dollar amount was.
Yeah, a year's worth of utilities at Pipkin runs about $93,000, and so if we get out of there 8 months early, which is the difference in construction schedules, we're about $63,000 that we would not have to spend just in utility costs alone. That's nothing else.
Is there anything to attribute the difference in completion time? Do you know why they're so drastically different?
Crossland's committed to just being a very aggressive and getting it done sooner than the other bidders. They took an aggressive approach to it. It's putting us in the building approximately 9 months ahead of schedule or ahead of time.
Okay. I hope that they just know this board is going to hold them to that.
I told them it will be in the contract.
We will not forget. Yes.
It will be in the contract.
Okay, thank you for being here this evening.
Are there,
If you heard it.
Miriam, did you have?
Oh, I just wanted to follow up on Mrs. Bruner's question. So utilities, are you saying that because it's a new building, the utilities will be less expensive because it'll be more efficient, energy efficient?
What I was providing was the actual cost in our current building, but to answer that question, yes. These
Because-
are more efficient, so we're not going to see a complete savings of, let's say, $63,000. We will see a savings because we're now in a building
Right,
that is
because now we have new
efficient.
utilities to pay.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted, like, what did I miss there?
But it is more efficient. These buildings are much more efficient than something that was built in 1920.
I would imagine.
are there either penalties or incentives attached to the completion date?
Is there any incentives?
Penalties or incentives?
There is penalties. There's liquidated damages if they don't complete in the 480 days that they committed to.
How's that defined? Is it,
It'll be embedded in the contract language.
so do we, like, will we have to litigate that, or is it just like a per day cost or something like that?
It's a $500 per day cost to the contractor.
It's not a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's only $3,000 a
Other
week.
board member questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we will vote.
So, okay, wait, real quick. So was the contract done, like, when we vote now?
We're voting to move forward, and the contract will be prepared and presented to Travis.
$500 a day is not very much when you add it up.
It is. When you consider the amount of their fee, I think it is.
And in addition to that, it's $500 once substantial completion hits, and then another $500 once final completion date. So generally speaking, those dates are 30 days apart, and so it's $500 for the first 30 days, and then it becomes $1,000 for
Okay.
every day after that.
Then it
So
really
does-
adds up.
It does
Okay.
end up adding up.
Well, when you're
yes.
looking at 50 million, 50,000
But
is
they're
not that
not,
much.
Crossland's not making 50 million on it.
No, I'm talking about our cost.
Right, but Crossland will take a 3% fee, does that sound right?
I don't remember.
We don't know what their overhead and profit is when it's a
Hard bid.
Hard
Oh,
bid.
that's right. But
Yeah, this
so
is-
it's baked in, but it's something around that.
Okay, let's vote.
$1,000 a day, that's something.
Motion that the board approve the construction bid submitted by Crosslink Construction for Pipkin Middle School is approved, 7-0. That moves us to item 7.03, Pershing Middle School construction recommendation.
Good evening again. So after, over the last several months, there's been meetings with the board around this particular project. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through kind of some things that have happened previously to get us to this point. The architects will then present the updated information. As you may recall, in our meetings, we were waiting till the Pipkin bid came in so that we could then adjust to where we really felt these numbers needed to be, which has happened. It was all being worked out in the last few days, which is why this presentation didn't even get uploaded until this afternoon. So we're going to walk down memory lane just a bit so we can bring us back to where we are. If you remember back in October 22, Dr. Mulford and I presented a recommendation to the board around what the potential bond issue would look like. And so through this process, these particular slides were shown. We wanted to build on that MGT report. We wanted to plan for future needs of learners, provide realistic options and choices, and also provide consistent, accurate data so that we could compare the cost estimates from the previous bond to what they are currently. And so as we approached every project, the goal was to have renovation projects have at least a 90 score on their condition, and new obviously to be 100%. And so as we worked through this particular school, that was the goal, was making sure that if we were to renovate, that it had to get to at least that 90% condition. And so when we looked at how do we determine costs from what we had in 19 to what we had, what we projected in 2023, we did increase those costs. You can see from a new construction of 330, and then you can see the different costs for light, medium, and heavy. In perspective, 2019 bond, we utilized a $225 cost per square foot for new construction. So you can see how significantly that has changed. Again, as a reminder, the budgets that we provided for the bond issue were put together in April of 22. So those were done conservatively, obviously, because it's a year before a bond issue, and then we wouldn't even have built a first building until probably a year after that. And so there's a lot of work that goes into really trying to see where those costs are going to end up to today. This was the Community Task Force prioritization vote. You can see Pershing was the third highest vote, and so it made that list, and you can see how those move on down from their recommendation. What I want to highlight on this slide is the number that's highlighted. So you can see this was what the ultimate recommendation to the board was. Obviously, Robertson Elementary is not on that list anymore, but I want to highlight the $200,500,000. And so with those particular projects, we knew going into the bond issue that we had about $19.5 million that was not allocated to one project at all. We used, that was cost avoidance, cost allowance, however you want to look at that, but we knew that that was kind of our safety net, not knowing exactly where the projects would come to play. And so that brings us to today. So when we hired Eshley Schneider, who's working collaboratively with DLR Group, we then hired Crossland Construction through the CMR, the Construction Manager at Risk Delivery Method. Back in December, we charged them with the first thing is we need for you to do a feasibility review on this project. We need to be able to determine, is renovation of Pershing Middle School now the best approach, or is building it new? And so the last few months, they have provided that information. It was requested that not only do we have a renovation and a new construction, but we want to see what is that combination. What if we keep some of that building, but tear some of it down and rebuild? What does that look like? And so that was provided a couple weeks ago. So the architects are here to bring us back through those three options, and they will provide you with updated numbers that you will see have drastically decreased due to where we see the market actually is today with the Pipkin bid, also with escalation applied to that to where we think we will be a year from now. So I'm going to invite up to the podium, we have from DLR Group Kevin Greischer and Ishita Banerjee. I know I probably just butchered that. You've seen Jeff Groven in the back from Crossland, and Tom Lundberg with Eshley Schneider is also here. So I'll bring you guys up here and let you work through your slides.
I am Kevin Greischer, principal with DLR Group, representing our team. Tim is, Gio is out on spring break, so just coming back tonight. He sent me a text and said good luck. So what you're looking at is the Pershing site plan, looking at those, what's there now. What we did was, at the beginning, just took a look at the building, what we were asked to do, what's condition the building. We had 10, 12 people walking around, engineers, architects, everyone that would have an impact on this building. And part of this, realizing that this building has had six reiterations of life over a 37-year period, and nothing done in the last 21. So unfortunately, this building is as old as I am, and I know I have a lot of creaky parts and pieces and have had some replaced. So I understand where that building is. So we took our time to evaluate that along with Crossland and our team. And what we did was we looked at the priorities of what you were looking for in a building that would be equitable amongst any of your middle schools. And starting with looking at the systems, mechanical systems, electrical systems, making sure it was code compliant, and that we did create, it was accessible, and also that we created a storm shelter. So we know we had to add something to the building because you can't use existing construction to do that. The next thing was looking at the roof and the envelope of the building, looking at safety and security for parking and student drop-off, student pickup, all of that. And then just what the quality of learning spaces were. And when we did that, the reason why you see left to right, it wasn't that there was any higher priority than another, but as we looked at the cost, going through those first items, we were running into about $36 million at that point in time, which was the budget that we had been discussing. So the next things were is that this does not have an equitable gym to any of your other middle schools. Kitchen, cafeteria don't meet what you're going to need for 900 students. And just administratively, students coming, students going, the security of those were things that we knew we had to look at, so we did, and looked at them, looked at those three options that Travis was talking about, Dr. Shaw was talking about earlier. And from that, I'm going to let Ishita kind of walk through those three projects.
Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, all. I'm Ishita Banerjee with DLR Group, and I'm the project manager. If we get to work on this project, I will be leading our team along with Tim's team, Esteley Schneider's team. As part of the process, like what Kevin explained, we look at options, like we looked at the building, what you have in the existing conditions, and how it's a mix of multiple additions over the years. And when we walked the building with our engineers as well as the construction team, it became very apparent there were issues that were like needed complete overhaul. So with that, we looked at first, like the initial ask was to look at a renovation option. And as soon as we started looking at that, we realized that we will definitely need to, just on the site, like we would need to provide a fire lane, like a two-lane fire lane, just for the exiting purposes. That's a code requirement, so there is no compromise on that. With the additional parking spots, like to make it like a more accessible for all the students and families, like we will need the additional parking spots. This iteration kept the track and field in the current location, and the building kind of stayed the same, other than the fact that we were going to add a gymnasium, which is going to be equivalent to what you have in your other middle schools. And so we kind of matched the square footage what the Pipkin has. Like, so with that, like you can see the white box, it's kind of taking over the site. And also, like with all the renovations for the HVAC, it was becoming like you can spend all the effort and all the dollars on this building, but still it may not be code compliant because the heights on the building cannot be mitigated. The structure is what it is, and we will not get into an invasive structural renovation because at that point it doesn't make sense to leave the building as is. And so the heights were one of the compromise that we looked at, and like initially our team had looked at, like where if you add a sprinkler system just to bring it up to code throughout the building, you are not meeting code in terms of building height, like corridor heights and classroom heights in the spaces. So that was one thing, but still with all the renovations, with our best of the effort, like we looked at a cost, like a hard cost, which is like essentially a renovation cost, will be about like $43 million. The soft cost, which includes different fees and engineering fees, that is a percentage of that $43 million, and it adds to about 50,000. Again, these are just ballpark numbers, not knowing what would it take to completely undergo that mechanical renovation, because more we talked to the district, we realized it will be a total overhaul. Like you have to undercut the slabs and get into the underground sewage and utilities just to keep it compliant. Like, so with that, we looked at an option where it's a renovation and new build. Like, okay, keep the pieces that are still functional. Maybe we can make it work. However, the gym was always an inadequate piece. You have only about 6,000 square feet of area available in the current building, like just for the gym. But if you can see the numbers, like at least Pipkin has 27,500, so it's not even equitable. So it's like just to get up to that level of renovation or like equity, you have to provide a bigger gym, which include, like it will also need a storm shelter. Again, the dual stack lane for the fire code is a minimum requirement just to make the site work. So between the site and the new addition pieces, we also looked at like, okay, there are pieces in the building that can possibly go through like a full demolition and then add new construction to it. So it will be a mix and match. However, with that, you still are looking at, there are like the existing pieces of the building. Other than the structure, there is not much to save. You will still have to upgrade the envelope, because by that time you're running into a lot of code issues where the envelope is not compliant at this point. So you have to upgrade the envelope. You have to still upgrade all the HVAC and add the new construction. And with that, there will be phasing needed, with the students need to be either moving out of this building or have to still be in the building and still deal with the construction hassle. So with that, this option, more we studied, like even if you just keep the cost aside, it became more and more more of not being a solution. And once we looked at, like even just if the site remains almost the same, you don't move the track area, once we look at all that layout, you are not necessarily getting the efficiency from the site or from the building when you are trying to save any portions of it. So with that, like I'm happy to talk you through all the other options, like all the iterations we looked at for this option. But with that, we felt like once you look at the new construction, and in that case, I think the biggest thing that was that came to we realized is you can keep the building operational, existing building operational throughout the construction phase. That is one of the maybe a cost savings or at least a logistical savings for the district, that they can keep the students on site, may have to deal with the construction site on the other side because of the parking or something, but that can be mitigated in a better way and still have the site available for a new building. Let the building be constructed, maybe the students move over, and then you work on the track. And again, this is just something that architecturally we looked at. Once we have the contractors, like which we have now, we can work with them and come up with a feasible phasing plan for the district. But essentially, it became the most easy construction, and overall timeline-wise, this is also like going to be the fastest on the construction timeline, because with any kind of renovation, you still have to work with the phasing plan, and moving the students and all the logistics that come with it will be part of that phasing plan. And that may actually make the construction timeline longer. So more we looked at this, and with the, of course, like budget always becomes a discussion, and how the inflation is going to impact. Longer the construction timeline, you will exhaust your budget like faster. So we thought, like, again, this is more of an iteration that we studied. We came to the conclusion that this is, even though it's like a little bit higher dollar from the original renovation plan, still gives you an option that is best suited for modern construction and modern teaching technology and modern teaching ways. Also, you don't have to deal with any kind of renovation. You are not trying to fix problems in an existing building that is not necessarily going to give you the best value for your dollar. You are working with a completely brand new footprint, and you can shape it anyway. This is just a box as of now, but like you can shape it anyway. However, like we will work with the district to come up with the right program and everything. And hopefully this will be the best use of our site as well. It has a bus drop off, like it has also a dedicated bus lane. The fire track will be also around the site. So it really is the best use of the site architecturally. Again, dollar-wise, this is not the lowest dollar version, but still the most efficient dollar version in terms of timeline, as well as giving you what you want from a modern school kid or middle school from, which is like what I understand your other buildings are also getting a lot of upgrades or actually being built new. So this will also bring equity in that realm of things. So we felt like this is one of the best options, but again, it is up to the board to decide, but I wanted to show a cost comparison slide. We have the option one, which is like, of course, your lowest cost comparison, but as a building, it doesn't necessarily give you the best spaces. You are still dealing with renovated spaces where you are putting in a lot of dollars, but you are not seeing that on the face of the building. Like there will not be an uplift, like that is not an onward update. It's just making it work for maybe next 15, 20 years, but you're not getting the best spaces in that building. The second option probably does a better job, but it does also have to deal with all the phasing, also is not the most cost efficient one. And there will be a lot of challenges that is unforeseen at this point, like because once you get into a renovation and you start peeling out those layers of the building, you find more challenges that are not necessarily seen or foreseen unless you do a demolition. So those will be the challenges that are unanticipated at this point. Third option is, of course, to start it fresh, clean, and gives you the best option to keep the students in the existing spaces, let them use the space, and once you have the new construction done, maybe move over and then you work on the site, which we think is a reasonable option. But again, that is our assumption. That is not something that is built into any kind of schedule or phasing plan yet, because we haven't worked with the contractors, but we will work with that if this is to pass. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah, those are the options.
Okay, we'll pause and see if there are any questions from the board at this time.
A question. You mentioned a $36 million original budget. Travis, the information that you showed was that our original budget was 50. Can you please reconcile that? I thought that when we originally conceived this bond, the remodel was more at 36, but the slide that you showed led me to believe that our original budget was 50.
Go up to.
Yeah, so the overall budget was $50.4 million. When we pulled away the dollars needed to do the additions for Field and Wilder, that brought that down to about $46.6 million. The $36 million is the construction estimate that she's referencing. But the overall total budget for Pershing School that was originally submitted to the task force that they recommended moving forward, that was then part of what we committed to spending, was $50.4 million. And so some of that, like I said, came away when we had to do Field and Wilder, and then that left 46.6, I believe, and then 36 and change of that was just the construction.
So we've already spent about $3.5 million for that field project.
Right, so the budget that we have dedicated right now for Pershing is 46.68, yeah, 46.68.
So this request is to spend 10 million. What is that what the number was?
And I've got some slides that I'll get to all of that financial piece with where we are with the district and what that better looks like. But yes, if we were to do new construction, it would mean utilizing $12 million of funds that we still have left available. If we were to renovate still, that would need about $4 million because the renovation cost to do all of those things with all of the heavy renovation that's needed has increased that some.
Okay, so
If it's okay with you, perhaps we'll just let you continue because there are additional slides and then circle back around.
Yeah.
Does that work? Okay, so if we could just go over to the slides again.
Okay, so and a very important piece to this decision, obviously, is where are we financially with the bond funds? So these were the original cost estimates that were provided to us from the architects and contractors back in April of '22. And you can see that a renovation for the K-8 Pershing at that time was 50.5. A new Pershing K-8, which again would be much bigger than what this current design would be, was almost 79 million. And at the time, we obviously didn't know what the decision was going to be, whether Pershing would stay as a K-8 or Pershing would become a middle school, and therefore we utilized the $50.5 million mark. The remaining funds, after the additions for Field and Wilder, that's where we get the 46.68 million is what's dedicated within this particular project. Now, this is a piece of the bond financial report, the front page that you see every single month. And so you will see that the total revenue from the bond proceeds, the premium from the sale of those bonds, the actual interest, and then what the anticipated interest that we are being told from our financial advisors represents about $253 million of total funds. The one thing that's not on there, and you'll see on this note, is they are our bond advisors are saying once you sell the additional 30 million, because right now we've only sold 190 million of the bonds, once you sell the additional 30, they anticipate an additional $3 million in premium that we would earn. So when you look at these numbers, the remaining funds available is projected to be $62 million that is not dedicated to any project. Now that 194 million that's represented on the current and projected expenditures, that is taking into account, if we were to spend the current budget for Pershing, that is taking into account that. So when we think about $4 million needed based on these current budgets we have to renovate Pershing, or $12 million additional needed for new construction, that would come away from that 62 million. So that would put us roughly at still having $50 million in bond funds to be able to then look at what potential projects from phase 3 could we still bring forward even after building a brand new building. So the benefits to the new construction. It's obviously a new building, which means it's going to reset for another 75 years. One of the things that the architects have mentioned to us is that when we renovate, yes, a lot of the mechanical, all the mechanical essentially is being replaced, but it doesn't reset that building forever. The renovation doesn't include new windows. It doesn't include addressing the brick and making the outside of that building look updated. There's a lot of things that it still would not take into consideration. Students and staff don't have to relocate. This is not just about cost. We know the cost for 2 years of busing them to another school was roughly $250,000, but just the disruption of that for 2 solid years is very significant. You obviously have less ongoing maintenance. The construction can begin several months earlier. Because this is a construction manager at risk delivery method, we can get started very quickly through design. We can begin having early bid packages come to the board for approval. Because we're able to have that whole space, they can get started on foundations early. They can get started on steel bids, the precast for our safe room. A lot of those things can be done in phases to where they can continue to design, and that helps to obviously compress that schedule. There's a lot of challenges from the safety security in this current building because of sight lines just simply not being there. And so having a much safer and more secure facility, it does provide the absolute best overall design for learning. We've seen that in all of our new buildings, and it does give us that condition score. would be 100, whereas we really have concerns with not being able to do some of the things with the renovation, that condition score would not even hit 90. So with all of those things being said, it is our recommendation that we would demolish and reconstruct a new school. Again, this would be somewhat a two-phase process. We would build the building on site. Staff and students would not have to go anywhere. Once the building was done, we would then take the old building down, then do the outdoor spaces and finish that project up. But we essentially would be able to get in several months earlier than if we were to demo, because keep in mind, if we were to renovate that building, that could not start until basically the end of next school year, because those students would all have to have a place to go, which would be the old Jarrett School, which our Reed students are currently in. And so that does keep us from being able to move forward before that at any time. And then it would definitely take us 2 years to get in. So we would be able to get started on this much quicker. So with that, I will pause and allow you to ask questions of myself or our architects or our contractor who's also here.
Did you want to, if you'll restart Board Member Burns, 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Well, the presentation wasn't finished.
Yeah. So, as you explained the bond funds that we have, it looked like we had about $245 million in the door, like accounted for.
Yes.
And then there's still another $7 million we're anticipating, and then potentially another $3 million on a premium,
Yes.
up to $255. Can you give an overview of where we stand on the other projects and where we know they are? Have we I guess just from a summary standpoint, has the totality of all those projects between the safety upgrades, Reed, Pipkin,
Yeah.
now that we have bids in on them, are they all under those projected amounts in totality?
In totality, yes. Mostly because Reed is trending to be nearly $11 million under what the budget provided was. Pipkin, even with the purchase of the property, looks to be just about $1 million over what we anticipated that project to be, and that's even with adding the cost of that land, which is very positive because the bids came in very good. We had 2 storm shelters that were a little under budget. We've got 4 storm shelters that are over budget. Right now, we still have probably, I think we're $4.5 million that we still haven't spent on the safety and security. So yes, as in totality, we are under what all of those budgets would be, which is assisting with the additional funds that we have.
So if we approve this, you're anticipating we still have $40 or $50 million?
That's correct.
Of wiggle room, if you will?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you. I know that I asked a lot of questions and asked for some processes that, maybe others on this board or prior boards had not. And I appreciate your willingness to go through those exercises. I think it was important. It was just important for me. I wasn't trying to promote any sort of narrative, and I think it was important for the best result that no one try to promote a certain narrative. So in requesting this exercise to look at additional options beyond just a remodel and just a rebuild, I feel, first of all, I'm grateful that you happily went through that exercise. And I know it was work for you and others.
It was work for them.
Of course. But I do think it was important because anytime anybody's going to want to build new, if that's an option versus a remodel. Remodel's a pain, and honestly, it's more money. I mean, both the architects and the contractors stand to make more money on a project that's easier. So I thought it was important to go through that process, and I'm really appreciative to make sure that it was the right decision, without any sort of preformed decision on just making a decision on what's easier or who makes more money or whatever. So I really appreciate you going through that and not being resistant in any way and being open to that and just providing more information so that we can make an informed decision. So thank you.
Are there other board member comments or questions?
I appreciate the itty-bitty little Pershing. It's almost like a little kid's dollhouse in comparison to the kids nowadays. I think I roamed the halls in 1969, 70, and my husband got a car seat for our granddaughter. She'll turn 5 next month. And I noticed that the car seat would go up to 100 pounds. I was a freshman. It didn't weigh 100 pounds. Pershing was just built for little kids at that time. Don't renovate. They deserve a big building that's going to let them dunk in 7th grade like Kelly did, and not run into the wall underneath the backboard. It was way too close to them. And those kids deserve a really nice school, and I don't want to spend money that's not, I want bang for the buck. I want it to last another 75 years, so someone else has got a crazy story to tell. So thank you for all of your work, and I'm excited about building that place early. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to make sure that it's understood. I think that the new project is the best way to go, and for several different reasons. I think through the remodels and that, and just trying to renegotiate those walls in that school system and the height that is needed. It's just so many encumbrances. I don't know that that is our best advantage. It might be cost-wise, but then now you're looking at how many years we might still be able to get out of a remodel versus, a new school. And I especially like it that we have a track and a football field now, which is going to allow us to compete where we haven't had that opportunity historically. I mean, we did compete, but we had to move off-site or go to a different location. So I think this is the wisest move, is that remodel, and that's, or not, I'm sorry, new build, and that's the way I will vote.
I just want to say that I also am grateful that we are doing a new build. It would have been different if the school was in better shape to do a remodel, but it's in a condition that does require, in my opinion, and hopefully the opinion of others, that the new construction is necessary and cost-effective and efficient overall, providing for longevity. I will say that having spent a bit of time today at Delaware Elementary School and seeing how the new build was able to be tailored to the specific needs of the students and teachers there, I think it's always great when we do have the opportunity to do a new build as we move into the future, that we're able to create spaces that allow us to grow into that kind of a future. So thank you so much.
I'll start with saying that while Mr. Byrne may have inconvenienced others through the last Reed, Pipkin, now Pershing, it was a wonderful opportunity for me at least, and I think others, who we came onto the board after this bond. So when we came on, well, maybe Sharita was here when the process started, but it was very good because we will continue building, right? $40 to $50 million wiggle room. There's something else coming up. So I think the process has been good for us. Okay, with that, I do have a couple questions. So the track that is currently there, it's currently there, right? It's going to move to the other side.
Calling it a track is calling it loosely, yeah.
So, okay, so it's, all right, but it's something for them right now.
Yeah.
When the students move over, are we thinking that, so I know that building is harder than tearing something down, but nevertheless, tearing something that old down is time, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Is that something that we think we're going to do over the summer so that when they come back, they have that area? Is that?
Ideally, you would like to be able to start tearing that down as soon as school is out, where you had 3 months. It would be, you won't be able to tear that down and rebuild the track and field within 3 months. It'll take probably
3 months in a semester?
2 months, well, it'll probably take 2 months just to deal with the demolition, and so then you're talking a few months after that. So, yeah, I mean, you could be a semester just to get that piece of it built. Until we have that timeline, I'm not sure, but yeah, there's going to be some adjustments that we're going to need to make on what facility they will use and how they, but if it works out to where that happens in the fall, then you can figure out, well, how do you still practice football? Remember, our middle school's co-op, so they would be co-oping with another school, so potentially they could use that
They would
field.
be somewhere else, like Cherokee.
Track
Okay.
happens in the spring, so we'll
So
try
it'll
to
be ready by
figure out
spring.
how all that works within the time.
So if everything is on track, what's the completion date? Like sort of
Well,
estimate?
yeah, I mean, initially, when we weren't thinking about being able to get started until
But now
June of
you are,
26,
right.
I mean, we weren't thinking it was going to be June of 28 being finished. And so that's not work we've done yet, but knowing the process of CMR and knowing what we've been able to do on other projects and knowing that we have a blank slated area, then we can absolutely, once this vote takes place, then the next step is we start designing. And so usually that design and bid process takes about 12 months with a middle school, especially this size. But as I said before, with CMR, you can do things within phases, and which we've done in the past, and we've brought packages to the board as those things have been put together so that we can keep moving and get that process started early. So
Date, what's the date? I have 2 more questions.
I don't know the date.
Okay, that's
Mary.
fine.
We don't have a schedule yet.
So you said, you said 62 million several times. Is that the remaining funds plus the 3 million?
The
that-
59 plus the 3 million.
Plus the 3, so
Yes.
that's 62.
Correct.
And then that 62, we take out this third option, which was 58 million.
An additional 12 million, based on what the budget currently is, of 46 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be 58 million, so that would be another 12 million that we would need. So that would come away from that 62.
Right, so 58, 62 minus 58, right? So then we're left with, and that amount that do that one more time for me.
The 62 million that is remaining includes the full budget of Pershing of the
Correct.
46 million. We need another 12 million to build a new one, so that 12 million has to come from that 62.
Right, so it's included, okay.
So it leaves us with 50.
But leaves.
It would leave us with $50 more million to do something with.
Do that one more time quickly. So the original 48 million budget is included in the 62.
That's correct. That's included in the 194 million that is accounted for.
Right.
Which leaves us with the $62 million. But we need an extra 12 million.
Okay, and that's
build a
how
new
you get to the
building.
50 million to do something else with. So when you said you have 40 to 50 million dollar wiggle room, it was taken into account all those other projects, which is how you arrived at that one?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And that's good to know because there is that safety bill that's going to be going through.
Safety bill.
We'll talk about it later. So a new build allows for doing all that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think we're on the right track, no pun intended, with our building, with our facilities. We're making steady progress thanks to the hard work of our employees, your team, and a special thank you to the voters that have given us this opportunity to improve our schools for their children, our children. So our achievement scores are going up, our buildings are going up, and things are looking bright in the future for SPS, and I'm very proud of all that. So thank you, voters and SPS team, for giving this opportunity to improve the educational constructs of what we're able to do for kids. Thank you, Travis.
I have a few questions. And first, thank you to the architects and Crossland Construction for being here this evening for any questions that we might have. I was a little confused. Sheeta, right? Yes, I had a question for you. You had mentioned under the option one, the renovation option, that it would be difficult to bring the building back up to code. But in the estimate, that does include that it would be brought back up to code. Is that?
There are portions of the building that may not be code compliant, even if we do everything, especially with once the addition of the sprinkler system happens, you are looking at corridors that may not be code compliant.
So if we renovated and it wasn't code compliant, what would we do?
Then that's something we had discussed, not necessarily with the district, but we, like internally with our architect partner, with Esther Schneider, and essentially we would not recommend to do that much of, like, include that much of dollars in a renovation and not be code compliant, but like we will probably have to work with the city, and sometimes city in an existing building condition does allow grandfathering in some things, but again, this is not an ideal situation. It's like, as architects, we have the obligation to give you a code compliant building, so it wouldn't have been the right path anyway. So
Okay.
that was one slide that we had worked with and we had presented to the district, and we looked at it in detail. And of course, this is more like conceptual, because we don't know exactly what the mechanical heights will be, new mechanical system, if the duct runs will be any deeper than what is existing. These were just estimates, and we were almost 4 inches short.
Okay. And while you're at the podium, one follow-up question. If we did a renovation, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, that would buy us another 15 to 20 years if we can be code compliant, versus if we did a new build or renovation, a new build, that would buy us probably 50 to 75 years. Is that
Yes,
correct?
and part of the reason is, like, generally for any kind of mechanical renovation, it's like depends on the warranty of the systems, and it's 20, and sometimes district have the opportunity to work with manufacturers to extend it out a little bit more, like 25 years, but that's kind of tops it. And of course, with advancement in technology, you're looking at those renovations again over time.
Okay.
So that was the direction.
Thank you. Thank you. My other questions are for you, Dr. Shaw. You mentioned that if we did a renovation, we would have to bus students over to a new school. Not having to bus them would save us $250,000. Is that per year or total? That is over 2 years, okay. To echo Ms. Bruner's comment, thank you to the voters for trusting us. I think when you look at it on its face, you think, why would we spend $8 million more? But it's been made very clear in prior meetings and this evening why that would be. Thank you, Board Member Byrne, for the renovation new build option. I had not considered that, and I was actually shocked that it came back higher than both of the other options. And finally, I want to point out, I think this is the first time that I have seen one of the benefits of a new build is safety and security. I don't know that I've seen that on a slide before. It probably comes naturally to you, Ms. Bruner, that makes sense. And it does make sense, but I had not considered that when you look at a building that was built in 1957 and the newest portion built in 1994, unfortunately, our school safety and security looked a lot different than in 2025. And that's not something that I had consciously thought about before. So as a single board member, if there are other bond projects or other projects that come forward where there is a benefit for safety and security, I would like that highlighted. Again, I'm sure it comes naturally to you, but as a single board member, that would be nice to hear. So those are my comments. Do you have any other comments? Okay. Do you have any other comments? Do you have any other comments? Board Member Thomas Tate, do you have any other comments? Okay. Board Member Monicani? Okay. Okay, thank you all. To my knowledge, I don't think that we have a motion on the table yet, but I will entertain a motion that Pershing Middle School be demolished and reconstructed as a new school on the current site.
I'll move on that motion.
Okay.
Invite him back.
Motion from Board Member McCoskey and second from Board Member Thomas Tate. We've already had our discussion, so we will go ahead and vote. And again, board members, you may have been logged out due to the time.
I was just commenting that we will have to invite him back. Mr. McCoskey.
I would remind everybody that Sharita and I were on that project in order to help make this happen. And Scott Kreis, by the way.
Yep.
So we need to bring Scott Kreis back as well.
Yes, I think all prior board members do get invited to the groundbreaking and ribbon cutting. So with that, the motion that the Pershing Middle School be demolished and reconstructed as a new school on the current site passes 7-0.
And that's why I made the comment about him making the motion, her seconding it. Do you see that?
I did. Okay. Yes. Okay, that brings us to item 8.01, Superintendent's Update.
Thank you, board members. I too had, for my comments tonight, to thank the voters for their support of Proposition S, but also thank board members, especially as it relates to, like I said, not only Pipkin Middle School, and when we made decisions to make property changes, and then the push by the board members when we went to look for another property. And Steve, you've come to mind of making sure that Pipkin received the track that we had promised from the initial discussions with the task force, and then the continued conversation tonight to support Pershing receiving a new build as well. So board members, thank you for your continued support and for keeping the commitment that we made to the voters in April of 2023. This Friday, I'm excited that we'll host a second annual Unity Empowerment Tea for over 100 high school young ladies in our district. Really excited. They'll have the opportunity to interact not only with our school board members, CEOs, elected officials, nonprofit executives, lawyers, and other professionals in our community. We have our current future educators graduate from Kickapoo High School. She will be one of our speakers. She's currently at MSU. We have another keynote speaker, Ms. Lori Robertson, and she's going to encourage the students about what it means to step up, speak up, and lead with confidence. So we're really excited about that. Next week, we'll have the opportunity to surprise our 5 finalists for Teacher of the Year. That event will be held on May 2nd, our Celebrate SPS. But next week, we're going to go out and knock on some classroom doors and surprise those 5 finalists. So stay tuned. They're still finalizing the scoring, so I don't know the list. And once again, it will be a surprise. Also next week, we will start accepting nominations for SPS Hall of Fame. So stay tuned. Please recommend an outstanding alumni for this wonderful award. And nominations will be open from April 1st through April 30th. Also, I want to just take time tonight to say thank you, Steve, for your service to our school board and for the past 3 years. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Dr. Lathan. That brings us to item 9.01, board member comments. Are there comments from the board at this time?
I have some.
Sure.
I had the opportunity to be part of an ambassador visit on March the 10th. Our SPS Foundation manages all of that and makes arrangements for community members to come in and go into facilities, meet staff, see the innovative things going on. And on March 10th, it was my pleasure to be a part of the visit to Kickapoo High School, where we were greeted by Dr. Powers and 3 teachers that had received funding from the Springfield Public Schools Foundation, and they were showing off to us, not in a bad way, but in a very meaningful way, what they had been able to do with the funds that they had received. It was very impressive. As I said, Dr. Powers was there to greet us. Aaron Scriven is the band director at Kickapoo, and he was very proud of some percussion instruments that he'd been able to improve, and there were even some students there that evening that gave us a bit of their drum line to enjoy. We also went to Kyle Loudis's broadcast journalism class, and I believe this is correct as the board historian, that his father, Tony Loudis, actually started broadcast journalism at Kickapoo many, many years ago. So Kyle is continuing the family tradition, and he had some really cool technology that I I can't even put into words right now, but he had things flying around the room and how they do close-ups, and it was great. And he was very complimentary, again, of what the foundation has been able to do. Then we went to Betsy Canella's class. She was Springfield Teacher of the Year last year. She teaches robotics. She had a group of students there giving us explanations of what they do, how they compete. Their robots were going around and they were showing us all sorts of, when I call them robots, that almost sounds simplistic for what they are. I mean, it's really quite impressive to see. They compete with these, and it's the confidence and the brain power that goes into getting that done from their students. It was, I loved it. From there, we went over to McGregor, and Principal Rebecca Kirby greeted us. She made a wonderful presentation, really bringing McGregor alive to those of us that were in attendance that night. She talked about some of the challenges. She talked about the accomplishments, and really just, I know sometimes it may seem like, why aren't kids doing better? And I tell you, we've got kids, whether it's at McGregor or other schools, that are climbing mountains that I don't even understand, never had to climb. And so sometimes I wonder, not why don't they do better, how do they do so well? And I think they do well because of the dedicated staff that are in our schools, and particularly they were at McGregor that night. So Principal Kirby is very passionate about what she's doing. She's very dedicated, as is her staff. The numeracy specialist or math interventionist, I forget exactly what her title was, Melissa Plunk, had a wonderful video to share with us about what her kids are doing and how she has used her foundation money to buy tools to help kids get their math skills up to grade level. Again, just so impressive. And then in addition, Dr. Christy Davis, who works with our early childhood program, was there, and she was talking about the transitional kindergarten and the kinds of things that they're doing there. And as a former kindergarten teacher, I can see the need, and I truly appreciate what they were doing. The legislative retreat, we have done that since last we met as a board. It was very helpful to not only go up to Jeff City, meet with legislators, but then to have the opportunity to come back and kind of debrief as a group. We got into, some details with one of the representatives who I see has now filed for state senator. It was on the news the other day. Representative Pollitt talked about his bill that would impact us here in R12. But it was great. It was time well spent. I will say that, and I've got to 25 seconds, for the staff that was able to step away during last week and spring break from their high-pressure jobs, regardless of what your position is in R12, you are all educators. From those that work in maintenance to those custodians to food service to bus drivers, you're all leading by example, and I truly appreciate it. So for all those that had a chance to get away, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you went to exotic places. I hope you were able to step away from the high pressure, wonderful job you do every day. And for those of you that stayed home and just cleaned out some closets like I did, that's okay too. So happy spring.
Thank you. Are there other board member? Yep, go ahead.
I just would like to make a request. Maybe it should be with Tammy. On the 15th, as I'm able to address the crowd, would you break that timer? Make sure it doesn't work, Tammy.
Bring an old-fashioned one, Tammy. The old one that ding ding.
Other board member comments or questions? I'm confident that the board will probably allow an exception that evening.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We might have to take a vote on that.
Right. Yeah.
I have a few thank yous that I want to express. I want to say thank you to the students and teachers and staff from Wanda Gray for recognizing and thanking the board for our service. This is often a very thankless job, so we appreciate being recognized for our service. My nephew, who is 8 years old, thinks it's very unfair that we don't get paid for this work, because we put a lot of time and effort into it. I appreciate the video and the song, which will be stuck in my head for the next several days. Thank you. I also want to thank the principal, Lauren Hassler, and to all the teachers and staff and students at Delaware for welcoming myself and my graduate SLP students, speech language pathology students, into your building to observe your intensive needs special education classrooms. No matter how often I visit that school, I am always very much impressed by the hard work and dedication of to the education and well-being of every student of every level and every need and ability at that school. It's just so impressive, the work of all the teachers and all of the care staff and the paraprofessionals do such a good job working with those students. It's just heartwarming for me every time to be in that building. Additionally, I would like to say that if one visits our K-5 classrooms, we can see that the use of pencils and paper in all of our classrooms, and I encourage all of us to move away from binary thinking, this black and white either-or thinking. It isn't always an either-or thing. It's most often a both-and thing. Using paper and pencil does not mean that we have to abandon technology. I support responsible use of technology. I've seen the responsible use of technology in many of our classrooms around the district, while I've also seen, to a lesser degree, some irresponsible usage. I trust that our very capable administrators are monitoring this and taking steps to rectify this and use an opportunity to fix these errors. Thank you, Dr. Lathan, and your staff for the time and effort that you and your very talented staff invest in and continue to put into making sure that SPS is moving in the right direction, moving forward into the future, researching, evaluating all of the information about technology, curriculum, and the overall well-being and education of the nearly 25,000 SPS students. To this board and to future boards, I trust and believe that all of us have committed our time, money, and effort to serve on this board, and note that each and every one of us serves and represents as individuals that bring different knowledge and experiences to this board. How we ask questions, how we interact varies based on how we engage with information. I am, as myself, a very big questioner. I ask lots of questions, but I often seek answers in different ways than just emailing. I'm a researcher, and so I'm very comfortable finding answers for myself. I also value the time and effort that our superintendent and staff and the heavy load that they carry for the work that they do, and don't want to overburden them with a bunch of questions. So often I ask my questions of myself and research them. Additionally, as an educator and lifelong learner, I embrace a level of uncertainty that some people may find to be uncomfortable. What I've learned and what I've known over time, and I tell my students this all the time, that the more that I know, the more that I know that I don't know. And I'm okay with that. A lot of people aren't okay with not knowing, but I'm okay with not knowing, recognizing that we can't all be experts in everything. I bring my own level of expertise to this board, and I hope that I use it in a way that is valuable to this board. All of us bring different skills and talents, and I appreciate all of the information that each of us bring to this particular board. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean that that we can't work together. I actually often think that we often agree on some of the problems. We often disagree on how to approach those problems. And just because one person seeks to approach them in a different way doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's not binary. If we work together in more of a cooperative, not binary way, I think we can accomplish a lot more if we kind of understand that it's not just an either-or kind of thing. So all that said, I just want to, again, recognize that we have a district that is endeavoring to meet the needs of our students, that are working very hard, and I value all of the input of the professionals that work in our school district. Finally, I would like to say regarding the visit to the state capitol. I really appreciated that. Thank you so much for that opportunity. It was an eye-opening experience, and I'm running out of time, but I am more convinced than ever that we should focus on supporting issues rather than bills, because that process is a very complicated one that changes very rapidly, as we were able to see.
Thank you, Board Member Thomas Tate. Are there further questions or comments, rather? You can ask a question, too. That's fine.
Okay.
Leave that to me.
I would also like to thank those cuties from Wanda Gray. That was a great little video. I don't think I'm ready to step up to their dance level yet. I would like to comment on our great archery program. We sent 9 teams to the state tournament, and we sent individuals from 3 other schools. 216 kids went. They represented the school so well. These kids start with an opportunity to participate. That's all it is. It's an opportunity to participate. They spend time with dedicated coaches, and they improve incredibly. They learn that they need to be coachable. They learn that they're going to have to put in some work. They're going to have to be dedicated, and they see that improvement. Self-gratification, that immediate gratification is not there. It takes time. And we had 21 personal records set at the state tournament. It's very difficult in the limelight to perform. And I do want to recognize Stephen Hall is not here, and I know he brings in our dear sweet little kids for us. A young man from Cherokee took 3rd place with a score of 290. Now 300 is a perfect score. And there have been 5 perfect scores in the entire world in the history of archery. He had 20 tens, bullseye about this size, and then he had 10 arrows that were in the 9 and about this arrow. And that was from 10 and 15 meters. That's incredible. 3rd place in the state. Missouri is the 2nd largest state in archery. I cannot say enough about our coaches. We go to 5 tournaments. There will be, most individuals will compete in 15 to 20 opportunities. So what they learn in practice really goes a long way. I would like to echo the sentiments about going to the state capitol. I missed my tour when I was in 5th grade, I guess, because that was the first time I'd been there. To be quite honest, they need a good bell schedule. I don't know if you've been there, but I think that would really improve. They need a good bell schedule. And it amazes me, but you know what? I know they're working to get things done this year. Last year was not productive, and I think they understood that. I really hope that we get the support for our schools. It scares me, but I am very much hoping that the foundation would be funded. I am sorry to see tax money go to private schools because I think it belongs with public schools. I appreciate the fact that our public schools support our Missouri State Constitution, and that's probably the biggest difference. I would like to recognize. I really like the and I want to make sure I use your correct words. It's not an incentive program. It helps 3 middle schools, 3 elementary schools. What's your wording?
Support, strategic support school stipend.
Those strategic schools. I'm not saying all teachers work very, very hard, but I appreciate the idea of a village. The entire school needs to work together on a plan over a period of time to raise not only academic scores, but, the social means of the school. I think other people have mentioned, the mental health, the fact that they all come together. I know that could be several schools in there, but the 3 middle schools, 3 elementary schools is a great start. I think that it'll be an incentive for teachers to stay grounded. And when the teachers are grounded, the faculty grows together. And I think that you're going to, it's a great step forward, and you're going to see some good results. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Provance. Any other comments?
I really enjoyed listening to all the comments, and I would like to echo all of them. On the archery, so this explains a lot because I did hear a couple complaints out of Cherokee because they weren't able to travel. And now I get it, to nationals, I guess. The middle school. Okay, so now I understand why there was, because they made it. Okay, thank you for that. And then, so you don't like the bell schedule they had at the Capitol, the constant ringing. And that's a reminder that we need to ask for photos. So Mr. McCoskey, if you could ask Representative Chappell, because he, I think, got the best photo, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Really good location, because it was done professionally. And so did the governor. Who do we ask there?
The governor's office.
Yeah,
Teresa will reach out.
Okay. All right. While I'm on that, so before leaving on spring break, the legislature took many of the less controversial education-related legislation. They rolled them into the minibus. So the minibus is coming, guys. It passed out of the House with a very strong bipartisan support, and the vote was 144-4. So I have a feeling that it might end up passing. So that's good to know. And then I should have brought a copy of the school safety bill, but it has a whole bunch of things that you're going to love. But one of them is bulletproof. Like a certain entry has to have a bulletproof. So I thought, that's hard. Anyway, so we'll look into that. And then I just want to, again, clarify some of the comments that were made when we were talking about the devices. I want to be sure to say that at no point did I assert that our staff don't work hard. And to insinuate that is not only incorrect, it's a gross exaggeration. I think every member on this board is very aware that students are harmed in the ways in which they are harmed. And we all have a copy of The Anxious Generation, and mine was so loved that I have a new copy now because I lent it out to many folks, and it had coffee stains and all sorts of stuff. But it's, again, I have a new version now available if anybody wants to borrow it. But I think that if we can't have discussions without getting offended, then we set a terrible example for students. I think that's an important thing that we demonstrate. And no disrespect to other board members, but I mean, the fact is that the push towards more responsible technology started because of Dr. Lathan and her leadership. Dr. Lathan and I, we spoke about this before you even started. So we had a conversation in those early days, even before her first contract date started. So again, not to discredit any of the other board members, but it did start at the top, and it did start with board table, which is Dr. Lathan and other board members. I also I want to say that this assertion that there are antics or things are said for entertainment, I can't quite recall the words, but this idea, it's simply ludicrous. I want to remind all of us that it's not personal, and that I want to caution against taking the comments as something other than just observations and opinions. I know that what I say, they're my observations and they're my opinions. And because I think if we lead with that, then I think we lose public trust if we go down this path. And lastly, I don't think that we should shy away from having challenging discussions at this table, or this idea that we should censor a certain type of speech or what can and can't be said. I think that this is exactly where these conversations should be had. I think our strength comes from us coming together. Our strength comes from us acting as one unit. And I think these are very healthy conversations. I think the improvements that we are seeing, the buildings we're building, the bond we passed, the numbers that are moving up, it's because we come together and because we have different perspectives, because we have different solutions, and because we are able to have these conversations. And I just want to remind everyone, it's not personal.
So as we're reflecting on some positive things we've seen or experienced, I'll share one. Is it Mrs. Sandell? Is that right? The one at FCCLA at Cherokee? Is that her name?
I don't know the name offhand.
I believe that's who it is. It runs the FCCLA program at Cherokee. Well, I was talking with a mom of a student from Republic who was competing at the high school level in FCCLA, and she was, preparing to go to state in that, or maybe to qualify for state. I'm not sure. But she was worried about her presentation, and apparently Mrs. Sandell from Cherokee was the one that was judging it. And that mom was very aware of the reputation that she had and that Cherokee had, and said, wow, and this is a high school student being judged by the one who leads the middle school program at Cherokee. And she said, wow, well, if you can impress her, you've done it right, because she runs the best program. So I just thought I'd share that it sounds like they're doing good things there at Cherokee. Just a little anecdotal thing that I experienced last week. So that's all I had to say.
Did you have anything further? Okay. Did you have anything further? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Thank you again to the students tonight with that song. It's also going to be stuck in my head. You, yes. And I very much enjoyed the legislative retreat, and I wanted to give a special thank you to our lobbyist, Jason, who not only hosted the board on Wednesday, but then also traveled down here on Friday. We very much appreciate that, and I think the board came together on quite a number of things that day. So hope everybody had a great spring break. We are now in the final stretch somehow to the end of the school year and graduation. And that brings us to item 9.02, our upcoming meeting. So our next meeting is April 15th of 2025. That's our reorganization meeting and study session, followed by our regular meeting on April 29th of 2025. And at this time, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Motion from Board Member Thomas Tate. Do I have a second? Second from Board Member McCoskey, and at this time, we will vote. Motion carries 7-0, and the meeting is adjourned.